A love story worse than Twilight? Heard that ever before? We have always heard that Twilight was probably the worst love story we have ever watched with vampires and all. Well, let me introduce you to Thirst. Before we delve into the movie, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. A little help goes a long way. Song Kang-ho was a very well-respected priest. He was a social activist and a Catholic priest who used to volunteer at various hospitals while providing ministry to multiple patients. Everyone held him in high regard due to his utmost dedicated service and for also having unwavering faith. Although he was solid on the outside, deep down he was a victim of doubt and sadness, and he suffered in silence due to these feelings. Song Kang-ho decided to be a volunteer in an experiment that was carried out to discover a vaccine for a very deadly virus called Emmanuel virus. The experiment is carried out for some time, but eventually, it fails. In the process, Song Kang-ho gets infected with this fatal disease. He was on the verge of a deathbed, and once he got infected he already gave up. While on the other hand, some doctors performed a blood transfusion, which led to his rapid recovery. His recovery was no less than a miracle, and the word is out. The news of his miraculous recovery starts to spread rapidly like fire amongst his devout parishioners who were a part of Song Kang-ho's congregation. All of them start to believe that it is some sort of miraculous gift for Song Kang-ho to heal this quickly. Eventually, thousands of his devotees flock to Song Kang-ho's services. And amongst these latest churchgoers was Song Kang-ho's childhood friend, Kang-woo, along with his family. Kang-woo decides to throw the weekly mahjong night at his house, and he also invites his old friend to join in. While Song Kang-ho is there, Kang-woo introduces him to his wife and he is instantly drawn to her. Her name was Tae-ju and Song Kang-ho was very much attracted to her. But eventually, events turn out to take a new turn for Song Kang-ho as he gets ill once again. And once he recovers and wakes up only to realize that he cannot go out in the sun. He had become a vampire. Initially, Song Kang-ho feels great and he is taken by all the power and strength, but eventually, he is aghast to discover that he was drawn to human blood, and lately he had been drinking from comatose patients. Song Kang-ho attempts to kill himself, but he finds out that he has no control in human blood. Is as a matter of fact irresistible to him. He decides not to drink human blood and live by his moral code of serving human life. But being a vampire wasn't gonna be just that easy, was it? The matters got worse once he stopped drinking human blood, because one by one all of the symptoms seemed to come back, and they would only go away once he drank human blood. Song Kang-ho decides to go for an alternative. In order to not take any human life, Song Kang-ho resorts to a blood transfusion bag from the hospital. Tae-ju lives with her husband who is ill and her mother-in-law is very overprotective. Her mother-in-law was Mrs. Ra and Tae-ju had been living a very depressing and bleak life. Eventually, Tae-ju is also attracted to Song Kang-ho due to his physicality. It becomes very hard for her to escape odd desires for him. And this irresistible attraction leads to them having an affair. Eventually, after some time, Tae-ju found out that Song Kang-ho is a vampire, and she backs out of their affair due to fear. Song Kang-ho pleads with her to run away with him, but she tells him off and turns his offer down, and she suggests that they should kill her husband together instead. A Song Kang-ho superior at the monastery's eyes were damaged, and he was on the brink of death. He made a request to Song Kang-ho to have a little vampire blood, so that his eyes would heal and his death wish of having a glimpse of this world before dying would have been fulfilled. Since now Song Kang-ho himself was a vampire, he gets disgusted at this idea and decided to flee from the monastery. He requests to move into Mrs. Ra's house and she welcomes him, without knowing his real agenda, which was to sleep with Tae-ju in secrecy. Song Kang-ho observes that Tae-ju had multiple bruises, and once he inquired she remained silent, so that confirmed his doubt that it must have been her husband. Song Kang-ho gets furious and decides to murder Kang-woo while all of them went on a fishing trip together. He takes Kang-woo into the water and pulls him inside. He reported to his superior that he deposited Kang-woo's corpse inside a cabinet at the bottom of the lake, laying a boulder on the body to keep it from rising to the top. Song Kang-ho's symptoms kept on reappearing, so he kills his supervisor at the monastery and feeds on his blood. He drinks his blood and his symptoms fade away. But this murder of his doesn't go unnoticed since it results in a police investigation. Mrs. Ra gets delved into emotional turmoil after her son's death that she started to drink excessively, which led to her falling into a psychosomatically paralyzed state. Sang Hyun and Tae-ju were mistaken that they would live in peace now. Eventually, they started sleeping together more often, but the images of Kang-woo's swollen corpse began to haunt both of them. These horrific nightmares became constant in Sang Hyun and Tae-ju's lives. This led to the shocking revelation that Tae-ju fesses up that Kang-woo never abused her and that he was very kind to her. Hearing this, Sang Hyun becomes furious since he only killed him to protect her. Tae-ju starts crying, and she begs him to kill her, so she may reunite with her spouse. She kept on crying in pain. Sang Hyun feeds on her blood, and deciding he does not want to be alone forever, he snaps her neck as a sign of submission. He then feeds her body his blood, turning her into a vampire as well. Mrs. Ra, who had just fallen to the ground due to a seizure, observes everything. Tae-ju rapidly reveals herself to be a merciless killer as a vampire who will kill anybody for food, whilst Sang Hyun behaves more restrainedly and only kills when absolutely necessary. Their divergent ethical stances cause a pursuit across the rooftops and a brief clash. After some time, Mrs. Ra can tell Kang-woo's friend that Sang Hyun and Tae-ju murdered her son. Tae-ju quickly disposes of two of the friends, and Sang Hyun appears to eliminate the third. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sang Hyun tells Tae-ju that they must flee or be caught. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and hit the bell icon. We will soon be back with another video. Till then, take care of yourselves.